Hello, people of the internet. My name is Colin Steiner, and welcome to another episode of the Siesta Podcast. Today, before I jump in, yes, 2 weeks in a row. We're going strong now. Now, I wouldn't put it a lot of hope into 3 weeks in a row, but hey, you never know. So I'm proud I can get two weeks in a row. I haven't done that in a long freaking time. But anywho, we have quite a number of topics to talk about today in this half hour or so of sports and yada yada. I'll try and get into movies eventually, but we're entering the summer, which is kind of the glory spot for movies. So we will get there when we get there. But in the meantime, today's topics are women's college basketball and its rise versus the men's college basketball. I wouldn't say drop because they're still having record numbers, but how the interest is not near as there as women's college basketball is right now. And then we'll talk about the Guardians, and then we'll finish off with a little little finish with the Cavs and as they're entering the playoffs and all that, and finishing the regular season. But nonetheless, let's get right into it. So, women's college basketball. I feel like we can't talk about women's college basketball without talking about the elephant in the room, Caitlin Clark, and the Caitlin Clark effect. You can't say women's college basketball hasn't risen without mentioning Caitlin Clark. I mean, I have to admit, that's a sport I never really got into as much. It just never really interested me. It's great to see. I'm a big fan of women's sports, women's softball, huge fan of the Women's College World Series in the summer. That's one of the things I look forward to every year. Same thing with women's volleyball. I think there is a steady increase of that for the collegiate level, and I am hoping that continues to grow. So that would be awesome to see. But women's college basketball was just something I never really watched nearly as much as I did men's. And this year I watched quite a number of Iowa games. I will say I was a part of that Caitlin Clark effect. She just has brought so many eyes to the sport, and it's awesome for the sport. I mean, to each their own. Everyone has their own interest, and I'm never going to judge someone. Oh, why are you watching that? Hey, if they like it, they like it. Like, same thing goes for me. I like watching boxing. Some people don't. Some people do, like myself. And it's just awesome to see the sport grow and the attention to it start to be like as big as it is, and you got all these stars coming in like Caitlin Clark, and what she was able to do this season in terms of records and just on stats is she's having a bad shooting game, she's dishing the ball out to her teammates, and her basketball IQ is so high. It's like I said, I haven't watched much women's basketball, but there hasn't been a name that has the IQ that I think she has had. And I believe, I didn't bring up the stats on this. Like, I record this on freely. I don't get stats in front of me most of the time, maybe a little bit here and there. But I believe she leads NCAA, college basketball, women's college basketball in career assist. So she's career points. Maybe she's second in career assist. And she would grab rebounds a lot. I mean, she doesn't lead in rebounds, obviously, but she has had numerous triple doubles, so she knows where to position herself to grab rebounds. So her basketball IQ and her ability to play the game is just so kind of amazing to watch. I mean, when you look at the men's side, there hasn't been a player like that in a long time that can do a little bit of everything. And I can't remember the last player that did. It's been a while that we've had someone who can score 25 over 25 points per game and over 9 assists a game, and it's like an NBA number for NBA stars average at the college level, and we haven't seen that before. And this is where I'm going to talk about the men's side, where we have these one and done. So the good thing about women's college basketball, and I don't want to disrespect the WNBA, but college basketball right now is just a lot more interesting than the WNBA. I mean, you look at the same thing goes for the men's college basketball. Men's college basketball right now is so much more. I mean, you bring so much more eyes than the professional game, which is kind of interesting to watch, but interesting to see. But this is where it's the one and done. So women's college basketball, you have these stars that are staying. So Caitlin Clark stayed 4 years, did dominate through all 4 years. Paige Beckers, same thing. Angel Reese, same thing. And you have all these stars. Juju Watkins, she was there too. And then for Ohio State, as an Ohio State fan, Celeste Taylor and J.C. Sheldon. You have all these notable names. This is the most number of names I've ever been able to learn about it for women's college basketball. I've known a couple names here and there. Obviously, Sabrina Ionescu, and there's just so many more big names in women's college basketball, and that is because of the one and dones for men. So you have, as a Duke fan, I love my Duke Blue Devils, don't get me wrong, but I really don't like the one and dones. And I feel like teams like Kentucky, Kansas, and maybe North Carolina, not nearly as much, as they had a very old team this year. But you have all these teams with one and dones, and Alabama maybe one of them. It's just hard to watch the game when every single year the turnover for every team is like, oh, these stars are in for 1 year, and then they leave, and then you got to learn a whole new team, and you don't see these players develop. And that's where this one and done has kind of ruined the men's game, in my opinion. Turn it back to 10 years ago. Not even 10 years ago. Almost 20 years ago, like the 2006 era. That's when I really started to watch men's college basketball. My favorite player of all time, and still is, J.J. Redick. Stayed one of the best shooters in men's college basketball history. Stayed at Duke all 4 years. And you know what? That was so awesome to watch. And you see these guys at big programs like develop over the year. Tyler Hansbrough, as a former Duke fan, you got to respect his name. And you see these guys develop, and they become big stars for the university. And it's just, the names aren't there anymore. It's all about going to the next level. And that's where I think college football is so much better, because you have these players that are staying at least 2 years, if not 3, before they enter the draft. So they develop, you see them develop, and you enjoy them for a couple years and before they make it to the next level. And that's where men's college basketball really struggles. I mean, think about the Duke's class from, was that 2018? Or 2019, one of those. I forget which year off the top of my head. But you had Zion Williamson, R.J. Barrett, and you just had these great, talented players, but you didn't see them develop at all. And they were great pros, I mean, right off the bat. But imagine if they would have stayed at least 3 years before they entered the NBA draft. And you don't see that with men's basketball. And I think that's where the allure of women's basketball is much higher than the men's. You see these girls develop. You see how talented they are from their freshman year to their junior or senior year. And it's just great to see. I mean, let's talk about it. Last year, we saw Caitlin Clark changed the game once again, and then this year she just turned it up to an 11. And I think women's college basketball is in a better spot right now than it is men's. And we have to address the elephant in the room. The WNBA doesn't pay nearly as much as the NBA, and that's kind of where it's kind of Jekyll and Hyde. It's good for the women's game, but it's not really as good for the professional women's game. Because men's college basketball, you're like, okay, we're enjoying college. We get NIL deals, and I'll talk about NIL in a bit. And then we talk, they get these NIL deals, but then they get to the professional game. And that's where everything changes. They get salaries of multi-million dollars, and like NIL is, you get a lot, but you don't get that. You get a steady income with salary over a course of a number of seasons. But in the long run, I don't think it's worth it. I mean, when it comes to the salaries, you say 4 years, you don't pan out, then you're trying to work in the G League, and maybe you end up playing overseas. What happens if you would have stayed a couple more years? I mean, you look at the NBA draft right now, honestly, it has reached a point where as a Cavs fan, I'm like, okay, if we're not in the top 10, I don't know how the rest of the players are going to pan out. There's just a lot of players who think, I'm ready for the next level. They go, the scouts are saying, hey, you are ready. You're going to make a massive impact. And then it turns out they weren't ready. They didn't really pan out. I mean, as a Cavs fan, like I said, I've been there. Remember Anthony Bennett? Do we have to go back? There's always going to be busts, but that was such a reach that I've really lost a lot of trust in scouts, saying this guy's going to be. Maybe it was a mistake for the Cavs to take him at 1, but he's going to be a really good player. No. I mean, it's a hit or miss in any draft, but in the NBA draft especially, if it's not in the top 15. There's going to be very few players out of the NBA draft that are going to make an impact. I mean, and like maybe they end up all being role players, but you don't really get stars as much anymore. Out of when you get below 15, I think Giannis was drafted at 15, and I can't think of any other players right now in the last couple years that have made an impact like that. So. Who knows what'll happen, but let's talk about NIL because I did say I'd get to it. I've been one where I've been very much advocating for the name, image, and likeness for these players, and only because I think they should be able to make it's their name. They should be able to make money off their name, their likeness, and their skills off a third party. Now, this is where we kind of turned we made it legal, and then we just went overboard with it. Now it's just become a bidding war for college sports. Like, who can pay me the most money, like, to go to the school? Now, I think there should be some sort of regulation, because when I was like, okay, yeah, they should be able to sell their stuff. They should be able to make YouTube videos and make money off them, like the Destroying kicker, which hopefully he recovers, like, has a very successful recovery, that finally was able to play in a professional league, able to kick in the professional league, and then unfortunately fractured his neck, and wish him the best. But anywho, Destroying wasn't able to kick because he was making YouTube videos and was making money off that. And that was against the NIL, against the NCAA rules, which was so dumb to me. It was like, why can't you can't sell your own stuff, which, as an Ohio State fan, that was such that we got so over. Don't even get me started on that. So over penalized for that. But it was just, I think there's need. Here's me. I was like, they should be able to sell their stuff and make money off their own name, image, and likeness. But to a point, it's a bidding war now, and it's kind of ruined it, along with the transfer portal. Kind of ruin the sports a little bit. It's like, okay, it's like, guys, it's a free agency every single year, and it's not nearly as enjoyable. And that's where it's like the one and dones too. It's like these players are with teams for 1 year, and then you get into the argument about collegiate sports versus professional sports. Like, should these people be should making money be more important than playing the actual game? And they're college athletes, but they're also professionals, and that's where you get into that murky water of which one's which. And they should be able to make money, but then again, they're also student athletes, and they shouldn't be getting salaries from the university. I'm fully agree with that. But it's gotten very, 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 like I said, there's a lot of murky water. I don't know where to go with that. But it's going to be interesting going forward to see what the NCAA does with NILs and the transfer portal. And if men's college basketball, I hope we've reached a point where, all right, let's stop with these one and dones, and let's get these star players on teams for at least 2 to 3 years. It's fun to watch teams that bring back players and you see them develop. It's one of my favorite things to watch in basketball. You see it over the years. Look what happened with UConn. They've won back-to-back players with back-to-back championships. Wow, with experienced players, and it's great to see. And I hope more teams start doing that. But moving on, because I spent about almost 15 minutes talking about that. Congrats to women's basketball in college. You guys are doing well. Keep on grinding. Can't wait to watch more. Men's college basketball, let's finish up these one and dones. Let's stay in college a little bit. Make your money with NILs, but use the transfer portal very hesitantly. Don't be jumping ship everywhere. Anywho, let's move on to the Guardians. Yes, the freaking Guardians are off to a 9-3 start, and before they were 9-3, they were 8-2, which was the best start since 2011. Yeah, that was 13 years ago. Best start. And unfortunately, that team didn't pan out, which is a little what I'm worried about going forward with this team, because it's a long season. You have 162 games, so what were we sitting? We're sitting at 150 games left on the year, and that's a lot of baseball. So, I mean, here's the thing. You expect bad streaks. I mean, there's going to be losing streaks, and there's going to be winning streaks, but the most important part is you have to stay composed. You can't freak out, make drastic changes. Just stay. I mean, we've seen, we're 12 games into the season now. We've seen what this team can do. So utilize, and if something's not working, bring someone up. Chase DeLauder, I believe that guy's name. I cannot wait till we bring him up. He did a lot of awesome stuff in spring training, and I think he'll have a solid future with us going forward. And I wouldn't be against bringing him up, because our outfield, aside from Steven Kwan, is a little up in the air. Because we still don't know yet who's out there consistently. That'll be interesting to watch going forward, because I think, aside from starting pitching, which I'll talk about, our outfield, our center field, and right field positions are going to be very interesting to watch and see what happens. Because right now we have players out there, but they're not. I don't think they're long term. I don't think they're going to be long term players for us. But talking about Steven Kwan, who's our left fielder and probably will be for a while, the man is first in total hits in Major League Baseball, and he's second in batting average. Now that is, you got to clap and give him applause for that, because Steven Kwan, I love you, and I hope we keep you for a long time. Such a talented contact hitter, but apparently he's turning into a power hitter this year. The man has 2 home runs this season. I think he's on pace for 27, and let's keep at it. I'm all for home runs. That's easy RBIs, easy ribs. Or is it ribbies? Yeah, ribbies or whatever. Steven Kwan, go clutch every moment. Jose Ramirez, third baseman, awesome. Andres Jimenez, another guy that is going to be great to watch. I believe we just signed him to a contract extension too, because we have him locked down for another few years. But unfortunately, let's talk about our pitching. Let's talk about Shane Bieber. Now this one hurt. He's out for the rest of the season with having to get Tommy John surgery. One of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball to start the season. I mean, he had 20 strikeouts in those first 2 games. 20. He had 11 and then 9. And then, I believe, did he get both wins? I believe he's 2-0. Yeah, I believe he's 2-0. And then his shoulder isn't feeling right, or his arm isn't, not shoulder, wherever the Tommy John is. I'm no medical expert. But now this is where the Guardians have to stay composed. Because our starting pitching is, I mean, we got Sticks, we got Bibby, I don't know. This is where it's going to be tough. You lost a critical spot for your starting pitcher. If you're going to lose a starting pitcher, you can't have it be the star, which is unfortunately the situation for the Guardians. And I actually, before I go on, I don't know if I said Indians or Guardians throughout the entire time. It's muscle memory. It's not any I want the Indians back or not. It's literally just muscle memory. I call them Indians for over 20 years of my life, and it's just I still somehow managed to creep its way in there. But I'll call them the Guardians, and I will if I don't have the muscle memory kicking. But so I move on. But yeah, like I said, our pitching is going to be interesting and very hard thing to watch going forward when it comes to starting pitching. I think we develop our pitchers well, and I think our starting pitchers are solid. But there are times in the last couple games where our starting pitchers have given up 5 runs very early on in the game, and it puts us behind. And you don't want that to happen with a starting pitcher. I mean, in one of those games we lost, the next one we won, but it's not something I want to I want to watch all the time. I want solid starting pitching to start after a good 6 innings, maybe 7 if they can push through it. Bring out a couple relievers, and you bring in a closer. And Clase has done really well in the closing position and closing this year. So I'm excited. Yet I'm a little worried, obviously, but you got to roll with the punches. Bad things happen, and you just got to move on and take them as they go. Because right now this team is top 10 in batting average, hits, and runs, and you got to take advantage of those situations. And with contact hitting, and I think I never can stay. Our new manager has done really well with setting a good lineup, where we have Jimenez sometimes at the top. Maybe he's batting second with Stephen Kwan leading off and Jose in third, or maybe he's batting like around eighth or ninth. So you get some later offensive production that can lead you to the top of the inning, where Stephen Kwan can get on base, hit in a run, and Stephen Kwan, reliable. Andres Jimenez, reliable. Bo Naylor, the Naylor brothers, they can be reliable. As they both hit a home run in the same inning on National Siblings Day. I mean, you can't. That's sports. You can't write that up. But it's been great to watch this team start the season off, because it shows what we're capable of doing. Now, it's not going to be something I think we can keep up for long term. You got to be realistic. We're gonna the ceiling's going to come down a little bit, but you got to be able to roll with the punches and keep doing what you're best at, which is contact hitting. Most of the time, we're good with starting pitching, and you keep the opponent's runs down, keep your runs high, and that's how you win games. You score more runs than the other team. That's how you win baseball. So the Guardians are looking really solid. Let's keep it up, guys. I have a lot of faith in you guys. I thought we were going to be a 70 to 80 win team going into this season. Right now, it's looking a lot more promising than that. It's looking like we can win at least 80 games this season, and that's exceeding my expectations already. So, moving on from the Guards, who are doing exceptionally well, let's move to a team that isn't doing exceptionally well recently. They're 11-16 since the All-Star break, 6-9 in the last 15 games. Let's talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. Yeah, I had to move back. I had to move back and take a deep breath. We won our last game against the Memphis Grizzlies, who managed to have 12 players out, and we still only won by 12. I've been so loose to us saying we lost that almost said it there. But we won by 12, and we won the game. That's good. That's the only thing that matters. But it was far from a pretty win. It was the furthest thing from a pretty win. If we would have lost that game, I would probably say that's one of the worst losses this team has had in the last 10 years. Probably. I don't know what would compete with that. But we didn't lose. We won. But something has to be done. I mean, our coaching right now seems clueless. JB Bickerstaff is essentially just on, like, leaning over the edge. Why is my phone ringing? There we go. Is leaning over the edge, trying not to fall off the face of the map with his coaching decisions. And the players just seem lazy. I mean, when we're playing at a fast pace, we're doing well, but then we take our foot off the gas, and then we fall back into a hesitant play not to lose mentality, and that's exactly what happened a couple games ago when we played the Clippers, and we blew a 26-point lead and lost. Yeah, everything was looking great, and then we just gave up, it looked like. We're like, okay, if we lose, we lose. But if we win, great. We had a great start. What the first half of that game was so drastically different than the second half. And I cannot believe what I witnessed. My jaw was dropped because I was like, are you serious? This team, I thought after the first half that a different team was showing up. And then the same team that has been showing up since the start of the, since the end of the All-Star break came back and showed us why this team may not make it out of the first round. I just have a lot of, I don't know. This team is not looking too bright right now. We just look, like I said, we look lazy and we also look unmotivated. And that's not how you play basketball. And you look at teams that are on the rise right now. I mean, you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're a fun team to watch. You look at the Dallas Mavericks, who have turned it around late. And Luka Doncic is playing at an MVP season. And in my opinion, should be the MVP this season. I don't even get me started on that conference. That's a whole nother conversation on its own. But this team is just... I'm hoping that Donovan Mitchell, now that he doesn't have to wear that dumb face mask, is going to turn it up to an 11 because we need him, man. Without him, this team seems lost. We don't know how to play basketball without him leading the floor. And going into the at the All-Star break, it was one of those things where, okay, it's looking really promising that he'll re-sign here. And then the last, 12 weeks have happened or whatever, how many weeks since the All-Star break. And it's like, what just happened? Now, I wouldn't blame him if he did leave. Like, this team is so unmotivated. The coach doesn't know what he's doing. And it's just not a fun team to play on right now. So I wouldn't blame him if he left. I want him to stay. I would beg him to stay, but if he doesn't, I understand. It's one of those situations where it's a business move, and this team just isn't what I want to be a part of. I mean, you got talented players that just aren't showing up. I mean, Darius Garland, I don't know what I know he's had a rough season with all his personal issues and his injury issues. It's just a bad situation to be playing through as a player. And hopefully, come playoffs, because we're only a couple games away from the playoffs starting, that we figure it out, have a team meeting. How many more team meetings can we have? And say, listen, do we want to actually be in the playoffs? Only 8 teams on each side get to be in the playoffs. And do we want to be a part of that, or do we want to go home early? I hope that we come together. Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, Isaac Okoro, Max Strus, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, and the rest of the team say, you know what? We have to show up. We have to play with some passion. We have to play with some drive. And if we don't, season's going to be over. Like, show up. We want to cheer you on in the playoffs, and I want to see more of that. So, play with the same passion the Guardians are playing with right now. We have... Can't you guys? It's been a great week in Cleveland. We had the solar eclipse. We had the Guardians home opener. We had, what else was on? Oh, that we hosted the women's college basketball tournament. Now show us the same kind of passion that the rest of us have felt. Come on, guys. But nonetheless, thank you guys for listening. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. That was kind of fun to talk about. A lot of basketball talk. It is kind of near a basketball season. So it's going to be interesting going forward as the summer is. Maybe I'll focus more on TV shows or stuff like that. I know I want to talk about Reacher, but I'm out of time. And that's a whole thing. Maybe I'll talk about Reacher. Maybe I'll talk about Luka. Who knows? Well, we'll see what the road comes. So thank you guys for listening for this half hour of me just blabbering on. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. I know it wasn't as high quality as I've done in the past. A lot of kind of me blurbing, like rambling on. But thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate it. And I hopefully have a good rest of your day, night, or morning. And I will talk to you later. Oh, you can. Oh, yeah. Oh, I forgot. This show has been a mess. I'm not going to re-record it because I've been talking for 30 minutes. Follow the show on Spotify, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, and YouTube Podcasts. I'm there as well. I'll see you when I can. Maybe next week, maybe not. Who knows? Thank you guys for listening. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.